Hello and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona 5 Strikers in not real-time podcast, but where we play Persona 5 Strikers in the time that works for us, where we take our time playing Persona 5 Strikers as we go along through this continuing journey of the Phantom Thieves. I'm your host for this week, Jonathon Dornbush, joined by Tom Marks. Tom, hello.
Hello! I'm excited to be here, as always.
I am too, and I think I did it the right way this time, where I said my name first so that people knew who was talking, like you should when you host a show.
I'm proud of you.
Finally understanding how to do this all. Anyway, we're going to be going through the dates of part of August 17th and part of August 18th.
Yeah, some quality dates there.
But actually a lot happens. We're going technically through our next jail. We've got some story and character revelations to discuss. A lot happens in a small stretch of time in this game.
Indeed. It's... I mean, like, there's even a joke, we'll talk about this later, but Morgana even at one point in this, like, section is like, man, we did this, we did that, we did a lot in this one day.
It's really, like, the Stefan of jails. But anyway, before we begin, we do have some housekeeping to keep up with. So, Tom, why don't we start off with the pop quiz question and answer?
Yes, we had two quizzes
Monster.
Last week. The first was... curry in Kyoto is delicious in a way that even LeBlanc curry cannot compete with, apparently, if you believe the stat increases or the health increase it gives you. What was the ingredient? And we did have a couple guesses, but I don't think anybody got it exactly right.
Which means I probably wouldn't have gotten it exactly right, because my guess was it's some sort of eggplant, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
But it is specifically Kamo eggplant.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I think Kamo eggplant is just like a particularly delicious variety of eggplant local to Kyoto, essentially.
That's fair.
And then the other question, which was, as you remember, brought to you by the Japanese Tourism Board.
Of course.
Hashtag totally serious.
Not Ned.
No. No. Was that Kukojima is said to have gone from a small little town of 200 people to 1,000 in just a short time. And it was because they explained it was because they did this big push to try to get people to live there, and they had a slogan that came along with it. And the question was, what is that slogan? And we did have one correct guess, which was from Elak.
I don't know at all, so I'm just going to guess it's "We Got the Beach."
That's correct. You got it.
Perfect.
Nailed it.
All right. Well, this is the end of my time on this show then. I'll see you later.
The slogan was, find your new tropical life, which is pretty, like, tame? Yeah. I don't know. That's like, they took their population from 200 to 1,000 on find your new tropical life? Really?
I mean, you know, people, I guess it's exciting in a way. That could be anything. We saw, I mean, to be fair, we saw how many people bought Animal Crossing New Horizons, and that game is essentially just find your new tropical life, the game.
That's fair.
And it's like the most popular selling Nintendo single game ever thing. So, you know, I guess it works.
Yeah, apparently.
If anything,
those were the quizzes.
I was going to say, if anything, the island probably isn't doing as well as Animal Crossing. But, Tom, thank you, as always, for stumping me, but getting some of our audience to get some very clever answers in there. Appreciate everyone commenting on those.
You know what one thing this island has in common with Animal Crossing?
Raccoon who demands money?
No. Its citizens are sheep.
Gasp. We'll get there in a second. I had a feel. I really want to talk about the tonal shift that happens midway through this part.
Yeah!
Anyway, before we get going, just also want to read a comment from the YouTube version of the show, which you can find at youtube.com/Dornology. John said, I think I'm with Tom on the new Strikers characters over the royal ones. I do enjoy Kasumi and Maruki, but having Zenkichi and Sophia as more central parts of the story give them more opportunity to stand out and interact with, while the royal folks don't become front and center until the end of that game. I do wish Strikers was based on Royals, so there'd be opportunities to interact with either Kasumi or Akechi as part of the Phantom Thieves. I totally agree. But
yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, I'm holding back like full opinion sort of thing on that from until I beat the game, but I do definitely agree they are absolutely benefited by being in the full game. You just naturally get to have them be more involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad I'm not the only one out there who thinks that. Although, of course, you can have whatever opinions you want. And I do also agree that, like, it is sad that Royal is just completely forgotten about. But at the same time, there's also things from the base game that they just can't carry over necessarily. Like, as we see in this, there's a bit about, later in this episode when Zenkichi asks if Makoto and you are dating. And she's like, no, we're just friends. And I was like, oh, poor Jonathon.
I was so upset. I was like, you know what? We're just trying to be professional in front of this dude. He's, we're not trying to let him think we're just a crazy bunch of teens hooking up all the time. Like, we want him to treat us seriously. That's what was happening there. Right, Makoto? Right?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what was going on.
Anyway, let's get to that moment as we discuss the events of August 17th and August 18th-ish. As part of the Okinawa Jail?
Yep.
Cool. Let's do it. I was trying to think if there's another good name for it, but technically...
Not really. I think it is just Okinawa Jail on the thing, too. So,
yeah. Also, technically, we never really get to hang out with the ruler, so,
No.
That's what happens. But yeah, this is a little bit of an interesting one, as Tom has hinted at, and that I didn't know, but was looking forward to. The game is sort of... changing up its pacing and the way it doles things out to us a little bit, and that definitely happens here with a somewhat unconventional jail path, where you don't really have to go out of the jail for a day or two, and things happen. You have to go visit a separate area. All kind of works as one complete package here.
And this is one of the reasons I wanted to stop. It was kind of weird that we stopped in the middle of the beach day, right? But like, as soon as you go to sleep, there's just like, it's kind of a train that's running, and I wanted to just let it go.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that. I will say before we go any further, and we'll talk about it a little bit more at the end of the episode, for next week's episode, I just want to mention up top before we get too far in, we don't exactly know where we're going to stop. I would recommend more than anything, if you're listening along, check out our Twitter accounts, and we will try to mention this week for sure where we end up stopping. But you'll know in the future where we stop if you're just listening together. But
yeah, we're either going to stop, we have to discuss some plans, but we're either going to stop basically right before you start the next jail, or we're going to fold the next jail into it, and I'm not entirely sure yet.
Yeah, Tom will figure all that out, since I don't know where it goes, but we'll talk about that and figure it out and let you all know. But you'll know at the beginning of next week's episode where we go. We'll make sure to clearly delineate what next week's episode is, so you can pause or play through where you need to. Anyway, let's get back to this week's episode, where we're jumping through. Before we get into the sort of wild shenanigans that take place over the evening, we did pick up sort of from the wonderful beach scene that happened last week. We do get a little bit of, you can wander the beach, you can talk to a few of your friends. If you do, which I recommend, and hope you did at this point, you do get a funny little like side quest request from Makoto, where she really wants to just mess up a watermelon real bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so you have to go back into the jail and come back out and get the watermelon and all this sort of stuff. It's just a cute little thing where you get a little bit more of Makoto's personality. And as we learn, though it's not a full focused jail, Makoto does get a little bit of a spotlight here.
Yeah, and the Makoto, the watermelon thing is always, there's another one of these right after the jail, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Yusuke one with the Shisa. And I think this happened previously, although the ramen one was a little more elaborate with Sophia and the story stuff, but they do this pretty consistently, right? Where it's like story kind of quest that gives you a request that just sends you in to kill a couple dudes, and then you come back out, and like the story flavor around it is way more interesting than like what the actual tangible request is.
Yeah.
But this is also just a last opportunity to kind of get some of the other requests out of the way and do stuff like that.
Totally. It's a really good reminder. Yeah, if you hadn't done requests, you might as well jump in with this jail. But yeah, like you said, I think the pattern I'm noticing, and I think it's obviously a little bit due to what just the nature of what this game is and how varied it intends itself to be on a like mechanical level. The story stuff around what they ask you to do is fun and engaging with the Phantom Thieves, but usually then it's just go in and kill X number of enemies to,
right,
satisfy the request, which is, fine to get the cool little story missions, but you're not doing anything too bespoke for these moments.
No. The other funny thing I like about this section where you can walk around is that if you go talk to Zenkichi, he's like such a dad that he gives you money. Like, he's just like, hey, buy yourself a snack, and just like gives you like, I think it's like 5,000 yen.
Yeah.
It's just so cute.
It's really cute. Obviously he's in this mode right now where he's just telling us to prepare. So, that's just him making sure we have the funds to prepare ourselves. If only he knew how much money we had from the last game.
I know. But you spend money way quicker in this game. I don't know about you,
do.
but unless you're grinding for money, like I run out pretty frequently.
It goes pretty quick because you are, I think, upgrading weapon. Like if you stay at upgrading weapons and armors like with every jail, if you don't lag on that and you do it for everyone, it goes away instantly.
Yeah, and my strategy is generally I try to buy all of their armor as soon as I can, but then I only buy the weapons. Usually I buy the weapons honestly after the jail because A, they're really expensive, and B, I know that usually, it unlocks new weapons right away in the next jail or whatever, but you can also find weapons for people in
you definitely
jails.
can occasionally. Yeah.
So if you find a weapon and then suddenly you've wasted, 16,000 yen or whatever it is on getting Joker a weapon, and then immediately you find Joker a weapon, it's like kind of a bummer. So I usually wait on the weapons, but I'll get the armor right away.
And the weapons in the jails are almost always better than what you can buy.
Yeah, the weapons you find on request or in jails are better than whatever the top thing of that kind of like section of the game is.
Yeah. I will say I've been doing the opposite where I buy the weapons first and then wait on the armor, but only because the weapons are the first thing listed in the shop. There's no other, it's not a strategy. It's just because those are the first thing. And so I'm like, well, I'll buy those.
I respect that.
You're right. Like, you do get good weapons, and I keep getting them, and I'm like, well, then why did I just spend all that? Okay.
But also, weapons are more fun than armor, right?
They are. They all have better, cool names. They do look different. They look different.
Yeah, they show up visually. Yeah, where armor doesn't.
I think someone just had a fish at some point, right?
That might have been Morgana. Morgana was killing people with like a bloody rice paddle for a while.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, these weapons get weird.
It's good. I may also be thinking of fish because I've been playing a lot of Genshin recently, and there is a fish weapon that you can buy. Someone is just a giant fish instead of a sword. Anyway.
Someone did fight with a fish at some point in... I think Morgana had a fish weapon.
That feels true.
In Persona 5.
Anyway, we're 13 minutes in according to my recording, and we haven't progressed at all. So anyway, you're on the beach, and this is sort of where, like, as we sort of left it last week, Zenkichi is like, hey, something's going to happen. Be prepared. Kind of get ready. That was also the clue with, like, the request to finish those up and do all your exploring and whatnot. But anyway, you go take a stroll on the beach. And if you just go around the beach, you'd maybe miss it. You need to go into the corner of the beach. There you'll find Morgana by a sign. You call the gang over. Everyone's going to go in, but Zenkichi tells us not to. It is a holy spot of some kind, and we shouldn't be desecrating it by walking in there. So we decide not to mess with it and instead just do our own barbecue.
Barbecue!
And so they debate about having curry on the beach. Is what really stuck out to me about this conversation was whether or not they should have curry, because they just had curry. Also, they're on the beach. But before we get to the actual meal, Sophia stops us to thank us for taking her into the water. It kind of just reiterating that she doesn't have a heart, but she's really trying to understand emotions, and she's okay with knowing she doesn't have a heart, but she wants to understand what all this means. Obviously going to play into what happens later in this jail. Anyway,
she learns about fun, right? That's yes. The specific thing she gets to this time is fun.
Yeah. The main they're like food groups, the emotions. She's learned fun, anger, happy, sad.
I think she's learned joy and sadness.
Yeah. Anyway, we all eat on the beach. I enjoyed this because we have we just set up a table and chairs and a warmer. We really take over a good chunk of this beach.
Yeah.
I feel like we probably had to rent some of this equipment. But anyway, during this conversation, again, leading to the moment later with Makoto, you can compliment Makoto's looks. You can be a good boyfriend if you are betrothed to her from the last game, like I was. And so I wrote down, we can compliment Makoto. She is my girlfriend, so I do. And you essentially can comment that she looks like a model, and then she gets really embarrassed and is like, "We have a model here. Come on, what are you doing?"
See, that's funny because I said the second one, which is you're looking ripped, and she's like, "Well, thank you." So she like
Okay.
super is into that compliment.
Good to know.
Which makes sense for her.
It absolutely does. I wanted to play into the idea that Joker is like a really lovey-dovey guy at like the worst, most inopportune moments. And yeah, anyway, clearly there's no romance from the last game. But anyway,
in my notes, I also just wrote down Ryuji is a dumb because I believe he says like she's gained weight or something,
Yes,
and everyone
yeah.
is like, "Dude, what the hell?"
yeah, he puts it very poorly. Anyway, during the meal, Zenki, I started to get ahead of it before the game did. I started writing down, like, we notice a few guys chatting by the van. They don't notice that. Zenkichi notices.
Yeah.
Something happened, but he doesn't really say anything about it at first. He tells then he's like, I should tell you all something, and then the scene cuts. And I was about to get really frustrated because one of my least favorite tropes and things is when the protagonist has information that you don't, and it's then used as a reveal later, is like unfair, I think, to the audience.
It's silly. It's silly when a protagonist is speaking out loud, and then suddenly they just can't be heard for one line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
This isn't that so much because it immediately gets followed up on. I was worried this was going to be a thing like down the line, but no, it happens immediately, and oh my god. The change in tone. I was like, are we in a Resident Evil game all of a sudden? What is happening? This whole section is very Resident Evil-esque almost.
Yeah, I feel that.
And so anyway, it cuts to a cutscene at night. Everything is ominously quiet. The beach is dead. No one in sight except for a man on the window. There's a guy looking into the camper, our van, trying to get a sense if he can see anyone in there, and he breaks in. We apparently don't have a lock on the door, or we left it open purposefully to lure him in.
Let's hope it's that one.
I hope it's that one. But anyway, there's like, I wrote down everything is different in the scene because it's like he breaks into the van. It's like really spooky close-ups of like his foot coming in, him on the window. There's first-person camera work of him looking around. Like it's a whole ominously shot scene.
Yeah, I mean, it plays into sort of horror movie tropes and horror sort of vibes very intentionally and in a way that kind of no other part of Persona 5 or Strikers had, really, right? Yeah. And I love it, because it just gives you this sort of, like, this whole section is just this one-shot horror movie.
Yeah.
In a really weird and cool way that is so unlike anything you've seen in the game yet.
It's so funny and really unexpected, and I do think it speaks to, like, I think if Strikers were sort of set at the pace of Royal, this would be you could do a really great, elaborate, like, spooky, unsettling section where everything is not what it seems on the island, and you get that a little bit, like, when you try to talk to some of the people before this section, and everyone kind of just brushes off, like, oh, that lab, don't worry about it, it's fine. Like, you could do something where it's kind of, almost like Stepford Wives-esque, like you think everything is fine, but there's something boiling underneath the surface. But
yeah,
the scene gets a lot of it done, and it's really fun. The guy goes to what he thinks is a person sleeping in the camper, pulls the sheet off them, and it's just a bedroll. And then freaks out and runs out and is like, they're not here. We got to go find them.
He specifically, I think specifically says that they have to get him, trying to kill you for defiling their hallowed ground, right?
Yeah, they'll make an offering out of us. That it very clearly they are like off the deep end. It is
yeah, and it also escalates very fast because you think it's like one dude in the camper kind of hunting for you, and then it zooms out, and the camper is surrounded by like 20 people with torches, which is not nearly as stealthy.
It sort of implicates that it's the island. As much of the island as could be that we all thought was normal during the day has now turned on us at night, and it is time to run for our lives. Yep. So it cuts to the group kind of hiding out in the grass, and we're talking about what's going on. How could this be happening? We talk about maybe it's because there was that straw festoon that we walked past at the lab, and so maybe they've considered that we, we're defiling that hallowed ground as well. But essentially we're like, They've lost their minds. We suspect it's a monarch driving them mad, but Sophia still doesn't smell a jail at this point, but continues to have that weird feeling. So we go to the lab to investigate. Cuts to us. I'm really glad there was not a stealth section here. I was really worried they were going to do a, like, don't get caught stealth section. Didn't happen.
I mean, like, I know it's like there's like hiding, right, from like spotlights and stuff, but like elaborate stealth section in action Persona games would seem kind of out of place there.
It would. It just felt like it was setting it up for a second when they're like, we got to make it to the lab. I'm like, oh no, am I going to have to do like hide behind area, don't get caught, sort of thing. Yeah. But anyway, it cuts to us in front of the lab. Everyone's out of breath from running in secrecy. Then we hear footsteps kind of instantly. And there's a guy approaching the lab, and he's going up to the window. He's fiddling with something on there. Zenkichi says he's going to go capture him and handle this. You can offer to help, but he's like, no, I got this, please.
He's a badass.
It's great. He goes up to the guy, starts talking to him, and the guy tries to punch Zenkichi, totally, like, drunkenly, almost. Like, clearly he's in some sort of stupor. Misses, it cuts to black, and then comes back, and the guy is just knocked on the floor out. This is such a, like, cop in a movie move where he's like, it was self-defense.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have to worry about it. It was self-defense. This guy.
Oh boy, bud, you fell over real hard, didn't you? It's like, oh, that's a little messed up, Zenkichi, but okay.
Yeah, it's just real, like, it's funny because it is really playing on a cliche, though, that, like, is very common. So it was just, I thought it was funny that it was here. And then Yusuke goes, he truly is a member of public security. Which I just took to mean, like, oh, he really is just, like, using the rules to help him sort of thing. Because it felt like that very, like, cop in a movie, like, getting around the system sort of way.
Sure.
Which even comes up later to a certain extent when they do eventually go into the lab. But anyway, getting ahead of ourselves. This guy was updating the closure date on the window to the next day, saying the lab would be closed until the next day. So it seemed they were updating this one day at a time, which, my God, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. But also I really like this because it lets them have a day of just, like, fun other stuff before all this mechanically, yes. But also it makes sense in a really fun way story-wise because they explain that, you know, they would do this one day at a time so that basically somebody who is investigating it would be tempted to stick around so that then the citizens of the town could just, like, jump on them that night.
Yeah.
Is like, it is fun thematically too, right? And it allows for something fun kind of just as a blow-off day as well.
Yeah. Well, because it very much seems like, as we'll learn, sort of they want to be able to change people who are coming or to, like, convince them to be in this sort of mind state. And so to put a date on there that's like, it's a week away, someone might not want to stay for a week. And so they leave. And yeah, this helps play into kind of what the goals are. And like you said, gave us a day for fun. So it all worked out. Anyway, we kind of surmise what's going on here about that. We realize, of course, the guy has a phone on him with Emma and has only one friend, Shuzo Ubukata. There's an email on the phone to serve as an Emma tester, and it, of course, has a keyword already on it, Operation Oraculi. But she still can't smell the jail at this point, so we try to get in anyway. And as we try to get in, that's when Sophia is able to smell the jail. It kind of kicks in at this point. And we, as we'll learn later, it's kind of, they surmise it's essentially the jail was in sleep mode.
Right.
Like your computer would be, which I thought was very cute. Anyway, we get inside, and again, it plays into this very spooky scenario where we get into the jail, and it's like, it is a lab, but the lighting is ominous. Things are broken and kind of in rubble. It's very spooky and eerie in a way of, like, it feels open and too quiet to be safe. And things are just seem afoot here kind of instantly when we get in.
It's like a weird, creepy testing facility, right? And it feels very rundown, and obviously we'll learn why. I also just like this opening cutscene because you get, like we talked about before, you get more of Makoto, this trope of Makoto being this total awesome badass in all opportunities, an amazing leader, incredibly intelligent, but like as soon as ghosts or spooky stuff come up, she's terrified.
Can't handle, which is, it's really nice that there was that scene in Sapporo where you can get a clue toward that coming. Again, it's like sort of a very great Persona thing where they do seed stuff early on. Obviously, this game has to do so on an accelerated cycle, but you get that moment. You don't have to see that. You don't have to know and have that conversation that she's afraid. But if you do, it just helps layer it in as you get to this moment, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's super freaked out, calls out for Sai, and grabs Joker's leg and is just so afraid. And this is when Zenkichi's like, oh, didn't realize you two were a thing. And then she says, we're just friends. And I shut off the game and deleted it from my hard drive, and I didn't play any more of it.
Show is canceled.
Yep. To tell me like that's how we're broken up? That's how I find out, Makoto? Come on. No, again.
I also just like that Zenkichi is here with them.
Yes.
Right? Because you brought Zenkichi into the metaverse at the very beginning of all of this, but he hasn't, I don't think he's gone back in with you at any opportunity yet.
I don't think so. Yeah.
To be on the run and just be like, we just gotta go in, and Zenkichi's just there in his suit chilling and spends the whole jail just being like, I'm just gonna hang out at the door, right? Like, is very funny. Because it shows that, you know, he just had this badass moment in the real world, and then they go into the metaverse and it's like, okay, we'll take it from here.
No, totally. And it's one of those things where it's a really cute sort of element where when you just hit the explore jail moment and he's standing in view, he'll like wave you goodbye as you go in just to like get into the mechanics of it. Like when you're on that menu page, he'll just kind of wave you. He's like, yeah, you guys go deal with this. I'm not jumping in there. And he's still in his suit. And yeah, it's a nice little touch here for sure. But yeah, anyway, this to me, again, plays into the Resident Evil of it all, because it's like, oh, spooky area at night, and then we get into the like not medical, but like the science facility, and
yeah,
we're really in here, and it feels like it's very much playing into that, which I appreciate. So Sophia talks about the jail maybe having been sleeping. Joker, they're talking about this, and then Joker goes, huh, and then walks to the Velvet Room.
This Velvet Room scene is so random, it's incredible. It's in the middle of a conversation, and Lavenza does this thing again where she's just like, I see you're doing this thing that I already know about, and well, no, I can't tell you. Anyway, here's a new ability, goodbye.
Yep. Yeah, she's like, man, things like seem pretty rough. There's an inhuman being, she, who awaits us. I can't say more. Oh no.
Anyway, here's a third guillotine so that you can do this with 3 personas.
Exactly. And I was like, all right, cool. Thanks. And then you walk back out and Ryuji's like, you okay, man? Anyway.
Yeah.
It's
worth noting that, just real quick, the 3 persona thing, again, this is a thing where in the last game it would be like a different place where you craft 3 now, and it's like, oh, cool, you can, well, this is just, it's super simplified, and mechanically it basically doesn't mean anything but the list of personas you can craft has expanded, right? Yeah. And that's, you know, a little less exciting maybe than getting a whole new type of crafting with a new menu or whatever, but it is also super convenient in how simple it is to navigate that system.
I think especially for this game that is so action-oriented, to not get bogged down in those menus, it makes a lot of sense to kind of just have it truncated this way. Though I do miss some of the like more nuance for sure, and like we've said, we're not saying this system is necessarily better, but I think for what this game is, it definitely helps it getting you through. Though you can't skip the fusion cutscene, which is frustrating. You can? It doesn't let me.
Yeah, you gotta just put the start button. It just doesn't tell you to. Or I guess on the PS5 controller, it's like the options button or whatever. Yeah.
Man, back in the day, it used to be start and select, and now it's options and share. What are they doing to me, Tom? Anyway.
Okay, boomer.
That's my new video game stand-up. Anyway. We come back, no one cares that we left. And we're talking about what's happening, and Sophia hears a voice and runs off. We don't hear that voice. None of the rest of the group hears that voice. It is unheard to us at this point. But what we do hear as we get a little further in, and essentially the jail just starts. You just go in. I do like initially you can't leave, which I appreciate.
Right.
It's kind of like, no, you need to go forward into this. You can't go back out into the real world.
And the fact that you can leave later is strange.
It is.
It's very weird because there's not any, like, there's no reason story-wise you would ever want to leave in the middle of this jail.
It is a risk to leave this jail.
Right, and so, like, it feels kind of like the only reason they're letting you leave is so you can go back to the shop and heal up and all that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, this is one of my nitpick complaints with this game, is that they should have allowed checkpoints to be, like, From Software bonfires, where you can just click a button to respawn the enemies and heal yourself. The fact that you have to leave the jail and then re-enter the jail every time just to heal is just, like, it's not a game-breaking thing. It's just really annoying.
No,
right?
it's
just, like, stupid.
It's not game-breaking, but I was talking with a friend, a non-hosting friend of the show, about the game, and I think it creates a lack of, not urgency, but a lack of stress in the game when you can literally pop out between any battle and re-heal. Like you said, it's weird, but almost I think you're right, the like FromSoft, the Soulsborne-esque campfire situation would have made it work a little bit more. Because it defeats the purpose of ever really needing to worry about that stuff, and then it also makes you think like, well, then why am I even having to do this? Because I think like...
Right.
It should have either been, like you said, checkpoints or, like, a major mini-boss or a boss battle, and then you get, like, healed back up afterward or something like that. I think, like you said, it's not breaking the game. It just takes away a little bit of, like, tension to battle or management of your resources in a certain way. But...
Yeah, and I mean, this is our fourth jail, right?
Yeah.
And you remember in the second jail, at the very beginning of the second jail, where they were like, oh, sometimes you might not be able to leave the jail, and then, like, they... have never used that again, really? Like,
and then you can't at the beginning of this jail, but it's not for a long time. As soon as you get to the first checkpoint, you can leave.
Yeah, it's only a short stretch to that checkpoint, too.
Yeah. So anyway, we continue in. We're in the jail now, and like I said, this is it's almost like a jail on speed run kind of situation where you're just going through it.
You can literally look at the whole map right away. It's all on one page.
Exactly. And it's even funny when you get the 2 extra checkpoints, they're kind of just like pretty close to each other. It's not a very large map that we're dealing with here. But the thing that we are dealing with in terms of getting through and sort of the progression of it, that's very big for story, is a set of research tapes.
Yes.
So we hear our first one before we catch up to Sophia, and we hear a recording sort of about a penitentiary system, successful changes of heart, sort of leading us into the idea that it's not a ton of revelations in this one, but it is sort of a sense of like, oh, things related to what we were hoping we'd find out were happening here. There does seem to be research about the jails going on here.
Yes, research about the jails and research about they are doing something very intentionally with changing hearts through Emma, right? Like they are intentionally trying to do that here.
Yeah. So we get through this first research tape. It's very also, I think it's Shido-esque. Not Shido. No, forgive me. It's like a palace that I won't spoil in Persona 5 Royal, where we get research tapes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we meet up with Sophia. She apologizes. I'm going to just keep saying, this was a thing for me. I'm just going to keep saying Sophia, even though we're in the jail and they say Sophie. It's one letter. Her name's Sophia. Anyway, we meet up with Sophia. She apologizes about having run off and kind of embroiling us in all of this for her sake. But the voice disappeared when she arrived to this location. However, the voice sounded similar to hers, and she thinks the owner knows her. And kind of at this point, she's just remembers what her directive is, but beyond that, doesn't really know why she's being called toward.
Yeah, she ran off because she wanted to learn about herself, and it's very kind of sweet and sad. But also, this bit is funny because I expected her to be gone for longer.
Me too.
She's almost immediately back in your party, and you can just keep going with her.
Yeah, it was very much like, oh no, she's gone. She's out for... I thought it was going to be the jail that she was out for the count for, and it was going to be like a lot of bless damage you could be doing, sort of thing.
Right.
But no, she's right back in the party. So anyway, we keep going on through the jail at this point.
You bust through some plate glass.
Yeah, the big new mechanic, I guess, here is that you'll eventually come to sort of like 3 or 4 groups of plate glass that already looks like it can be smashed. And you have to essentially go up against it and then move, and you do a giant, cool, badass jump through it, sometimes to ambush, sometimes just for the flair of it.
Yeah.
It's not really anything that like stops you or impedes you or a puzzle you need to figure out. You just, if there's a persona, just angle your camera the right way. But it looks cool, so I was okay with it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, essentially we get into the jail, and I guess I'm going to kind of be going a little back and forth. But, because this is a quicker jail, and because it's a smaller jail as well, there's not a ton of variety to it, but I think it really works for the, like, ominous nature of what we're going through. It's a lot of busted down lab rooms, like you were saying, some what look like jail cells, or it could be offices in a certain case.
And then there's a couple of these, like, storage facilities, right? With, like, these big shipping container things and sort of, like, look like big storerooms, basically. Warehouses, almost.
Yeah, and basically your way to get through is to hook onto giant hooks that are hanging down from the ceilings and on auto movement, and you just gotta time your jump right. Again, not anything that's testing us here, but just a different way to, like, move through the level.
Yeah, exactly.
And help you get an ambush or two in, I think.
There's also this very funny moment that I was almost going to use for a quiz but decided against, where when you first go into like one of those storage areas, you looking at all the containers, and Yusuke says that they appear to be roughly person-sized.
Oh yeah,
which is like a little on the nose in terms of like subtext, but also B, no. Like, no, they don't,
they're
Yusuke.
large. Yeah,
they're
number
very
one,
large.
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards. And two, these are very large containers, Yusuke. What do you think a person is?
It's very funny that he said that. Because, like, the implication, obviously, as we continue to go through this jail is, like, they mention that, the jail would reflect its monarch, and so obviously this person thinks of this facility as a research lab with, like, storage containers full of people. Oh, people are just, like, their research materials or whatever.
Exactly.
But, like, Yusuke, that is quite a conclusion to jump to, that those are person-sized.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He deals in dark places, so...
I guess.
What can we expect? I did forget to mention, Morgana essentially, before we jumped off, says that he believes there's a connection for Sophia and the jail, and he also feels a kinship with her because she's trying to figure out who she is, doesn't fully know, and obviously that is something he went through in the last game.
Right.
AKA, if you haven't played Persona 5 or Royal, play Persona 5 Royal. Anyway, we go through a few sort of security rounds of fights. There's a couple, not mini bosses, but a few smaller but tougher personas that pop up. No, nothing particularly difficult, I would say, about running through this one. I don't know.
No, there's like a mini boss a little later that's pretty hits pretty hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise it's literally, like, this is so different, right, structurally from all the other jails, because it is literally a linear path on a single map, and you're just sort of winding down this path getting to the end. There's no keeps, right? There's no sort of open areas to explore. There are a couple secrets hidden in corners, but they're, pretty easy to find. There's not... this is, like you said, it's kind of a speed run of a jail.
Yeah. There's definitely a treasure chest hidden here or there, but it's really just like find the plate glass that you need to jump through, or just go around to the other room to the side of it to get through. And there's a couple small grates you need to go through in here to get to places. But yeah, it's very just like kind of go forward.
There's a chest with a level 3 lock, which you physically cannot get the skill to unlock yet, so you have to come back to it later if you want to once you have that skill.
Yeah. Speaking of that stuff, I will say on the Bond side of things, I was really dumping a lot of points because I realized I wasn't into your Bond levels up quicker. I had that on level 2, and I'm like, why didn't I max this out first? What was I doing?
Well, it doesn't unlock. I think you can get it to level 2 pretty quickly, and then there was a recent... I think one of the most recent rounds of requests unlocked it to 5.
That's what... Yeah, you're totally right. Because I was like, I would have been upgrading this if I could have.
I think I got that one to 4. Maybe I maxed it out this time, but I at least got it to 4.
Yeah, I'm at 4 as well, because, man, I can use those points.
Yeah.
Anyway, we keep going through, and then we get to another tape. It's someone saying that we have to abort the experiment that's going on, but that the person talking, who we assume is Ubukata, I believe, on this one.
Yeah, it's either... I think it's named at some point in this.
Yeah. And he's been given these orders essentially from like on high, like in a religious way, has been given these orders, but they've tricked the islanders. But they're saying the system that they're working on was prophesized. It's very clearly that Ubukata believing what they're doing is like on a different level, that this is meant to help humanity in a way that will sort of ascend everyone to a higher plane.
Yeah, he is fanatical about it,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Whereas this guy is like, this isn't a perfect world. This is imprisoning people by taking away their choice. And Ubukata says that this perfect world had been prophesized to him in divine revelation, I think is even the specific words that he uses. And so, like, it is fanatical, his sort of belief in doing this to make humanity better.
Yeah. And so obviously things are not going well on the island as far as we know,
No.
but we're learning about this all in the back end, and as we learn later, it's of note that we're hearing from Ubukata but not hearing from him in the jail proper as we go through.
Right.
As of course we'll learn on the third tape. I don't really think anything happens between tape 2 and tape 3.
Nope.
It's kind of just more battle, and then tape 3. And here we get Ubukata like laughing maniacally. He's kind of really lost it at this point. Realizes he is the test monarch for things, but he doesn't want to give in to like an unnamed man of some kind. He doesn't want to give in to him, whoever that may be, and he won't even give. Essentially, they want him to give his desire. He thought he would at least be able to keep his desire as a monarch, the test monarch who was given these ideals and beliefs and everything, but he realized that he won't even get to keep his own desire. And realizes that that's the other shoe has dropped. Like, he is waiting for the end kind of to come at this point.
Right. And so the main thing that's important here, right, is that somebody else is 100% pulling the strings, like telling him to do something here. Because they talked about a mastermind in the game already. So there's some mastermind that's telling him to do this, and is even using the monarchs, which is what this is confirming a lot of what they had sort of suspected.
Yes, absolutely. And Tom, you're there you go. You were being a little fuzzy on camera.
Yeah.
You got it done. Anyway, we get that sense of things. We move on from here. We get a little 2D section, which I gotta say, very thrown at first. I should have realized because of the mini map it was 2D, but because of the angle, it shows Joker from an angle where like he's in, kind of comes through a door, and he's kind of in the background, and I kept trying to make him run toward the camera, like, oh no, it's not Crash Bandicoot, he's not running that way, he's got to go to the right. But anyway, we fight him at a mini boss who I didn't write a ton down about.
No, it's just kind of a hard mini boss. I think it's Hecaton Kairos, the guy with the a bunch of arms.
Yes,
I think
and that's right.
It's just like a hard fight. Like, it's hits real hard, has a decent amount of life. Yeah.
This was, I think, the only time after this fight is the only time I left the jail, because I was like, well, I used all my SP, so let me jump back and jump back out, and it was fine. But anyway, we get to a fourth tape recorder, and kind of the big revelation tape recorder, and Ubukata is on tape, kind of talking about how the system isn't what he expected it to be, realizes it's not here to save humanity, it's to control all of humanity. It's kind of a betrayal to him, and knowing what's to come for him, knowing that they want to steal his desires. He sounds very weak throughout this whole tape, but also is like, I'm not going to let them get to me. That he wants to put an end to it all, to prevent that from happening. It sounds obviously very dark. Implication that he kills himself. Things happen later that we kind of get that confirmed, but to a certain extent. But it's a very dark moment where we realize, like, the beginnings of whatever this whole Emma Monarch Jail experimentation did not work out perfectly the first time around.
Yeah, and that sort of revelation that the leader of all of this does not have, a good purpose overall is a big one. Also, I realized we missed something important on tape recorder 2.
Oh,
which I totally forgot to mention, which is that Ubukata mentions at some point that there's another party already using the metaverse for their own goals.
Yeah.
And so I think implication here is that that's you guys, right?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, the implication is that this research is going on while the Phantom Thieves are out, because of course it would have to. It's only been like a month or a few months since the last game.
Yeah.
So this research is going on while the Phantom Thieves are doing things. And like, that's like, this whole thing is super cool to me. And obviously we get a little bit more of it as we go forward, but like, this whole thing is super cool to me because it ties into a thing about the first game that that's never really given a time to like really talk about in the first game, which is that we already knew in the first game that the government was doing tests on the metaverse. Like, the government knew about the metaverse before you did.
Yeah.
Because Futaba's mom was researching it and she was killed for her research, and Shido knew about it. And like, all of this stuff was happening, but like completely disconnected from the Phantom Thieves. And so to have this sort of insight into what some of those people were thinking even after the first game had started is really interesting to me, and a perspective that you don't get in that first game.
No, totally. And it, yeah, I think it helps to show and like stand to reason of, since other people knew, they weren't just going to let this very wild thing that has been discovered lie. Like, they're going to want to use it for power because bad people will. Yeah, it definitely, I think, helps sows those seeds really well here as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that back up. But anyway, we get through all that. We have to hack an elevator, and this is another of those Futaba standing there hacking away while you got to protect her. It's a little bit of a different one because she's in the center of the room, and so enemies are coming in from all around you, which is a nice little twist on the setup of it.
Yeah.
It did, I found, make it somewhat easy to kind of knock everyone out at once, though, because they had to be very concentrated when they spawned. But other than that, yeah, we get through that fight, and then we get to a very big room, and it's the cage.
Yeah.
Which we are...
But it's a little weird.
Normally, we expect everything to kind of go through the pattern that we've known of, like, it's locked, we have to go find the trauma cell. I keep wanting to say trauma center.
Yeah.
Find the trauma cell, figure all that out, come back and do all that. But we get to the big old cage room. It's empty except for the giant crystallized desire gem is there already.
Which are, yeah, already there.
It's already there. It's very ominous and spooky that it's not going the way we expect. And then we hear a voice similar to Sophia's ask why they came to this monarchless jail. It's a voice that says it was kind of like waiting for Sophia to get here at this point and is kind of surprised to meet us all here.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like a little bit more of like a robotic Sophia voice, basically.
Yeah. It starts questioning her kind of about what her directive is. But as she kind of keeps talking, it like picks holes in what she's saying and essentially says that she doesn't really have an objective. She's kind of drifting through the world at this point and essentially gets to the point of deeming her worthless. It just flat out calls her worthless.
Yeah,
in a very
she's
sad
bugged.
Yeah.
It's real mean. And then we get the best Ryuji moment in any video game.
Ryuji loses his gosh darn mind about it.
Yeah.
He just rips into this, this voice that they can't hear. They're kind of talking like they think it will be a person. I think obviously we kind of can assume it is another AI. I assume it is Emma. You don't hear it talking, or you don't see it talking with a body, and it never responds to the questions of coming out to go face them because it can't, I assume. But anyway, he just yells at this thing for and sticks up for Sophia. Tells it to shut the F up.
Yeah.
He like really goes hard on it.
I love this. So some people who listen to the first season of Take Your Time will remember that I mentioned at some point that there is a specific Ryuji moment in this game that made me love Ryuji even more. And this is that moment because he just is so quick to defend his friends and is like tearing into that this voice being like, I can't believe you've asked her 5 questions and now you've just determined that she's worthless. Like, that's ridiculous. And I love that it builds, like he starts so angry and it keeps building, and he says like friggin' a couple times, and then he just at the end of it like drops an F-bomb, and everyone's like, yo man, whoa, like calm down. But then even Morgana is like, Ryuji, normally I'd tell you to calm down, but not this now. Time. Yeah. And like joins in with him, starts like heckling this voice. It's so good. They stand up for their friend, like just immediately and forcefully.
Yeah, no, it's, obviously it's been a very central theme from both games of how much this group will care for one another. And obviously Sophia is newer. She is different because she is an AI, but it doesn't mean the group cares for her any less. And as you've said, clearly it is innate in Ryuji to stick up for his friends in ways that he may have not been stuck up for and cared for in certain ways. Obviously it ties a lot into his backstory, but he just lays it all out there. And yeah, the Morgana coming in and be like, whoa, Ryuji, this isn't always the way we should be talking, but it is right now. And they just go crazy. It's really cute. It's really great. And then we get into a warden boss fight. The voice just kind of is like, yeah, the warden's going to deal with it.
The security systems are turned on suddenly, right? And then the warden shows up.
And the warden uses the skills of all the other wardens before it to attack. I believe is what I have written down. We defeat a warden who uses other warden skills.
I believe you. Because I didn't really pay attention to this one very much, to be honest.
I gotta say it's an easier warden boss fight.
It is. It is 100% an easier warden boss fight. You can very easily abuse sort of like using curse and bless to just shred its shields in a way that I feel like the shields wouldn't go down quite as quickly in other warden boss fights, and especially that shield warden where it just has a million health.
Well, and this one, this does bring out the warden shields at some point, and I was like,
right,
oh no, we're really in for it. But yeah, it's just, you go back and forth as long as you have Joker with some curse and Sophia with bless, you're fine. You just keep going through it. And yeah, it's a relatively easy, both boss and especially a warden boss fight. It's a very easy one to take down.
And this is, I guess, I intentionally had Sophia in my party because I assumed, it's her jail or whatever.
She does ask you to also.
Yeah, I think she automatically will go in, or I think she has to be in your party for this fight, I think. Which is the first time that's kind of happened, I believe.
Well, I guess if anyone out there tried to go into the fight without her, let us know what happened. But yeah. I would assume she is mandatory for this fight. Especially because otherwise it is just all reliant on Joker, and it's not nearly as fun to do. But yeah, so you defeat the warden, and the AI voice kind of disappears from it all. We've lost touch with them. But at this point, like you were saying, it's very Sophia focused, so it's all on her, and she kind of apologizes for putting us through all of this. At the beginning of the jail, I think you're asked if you are trying to focus on what's going on with the jail and like find out the mysteries, or if you're trying to help Sophia, and I kind of answered like, I'm doing both. Mm-hmm. And so she kind of apologizes that you were trying to do all this and you didn't really find anything out about her, and that we weren't getting an answer on her identity at this point. But she does grow a lot in this moment, and she's like, when she was called worthless, she was sad, but then she was happy everyone got angry for her, which she explains it very cutely. It's like, I was sad, but then I was happy because you were all angry. And it's like, well, you were happy because they were the anger meant love and everything. But yes, you're getting there. You're getting there, and I appreciate it. And so she knows she has friends, so she is happier in a way that even though she doesn't have a heart, essentially her heart is full at this point.
And they tease Ryuji and Morgana for being adorably embarrassed about when it's like, oh, you guys stood up for her, and then they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is a very cute continuing thing with the Phantom Thieves, that they will be very hard on their sleeves, emotional for each other, and then they'll mock each other for doing it because they're friends. Anyway, they kind of leave the jail. It's morning. It's August 18th.
Yeah.
Ryuji is surprised about Zenkichi being so chill. He was able to find a key for the facility. He's wondering why we're all tired, like kind of just like, oh man, you really must have taken it out of you all to be in there like that. Kind of getting an understanding what happened here. He has a key to the facility, and we're like, oh, can we go in? Am I skipping over the fact that they slept for a night? Or they like
they didn't sleep for a night.
They go back to the RV and sleep for a bit, right?
Yeah, they go back to the RV, and it's basically not explained. Like, literally the morning just goes to noon, and then Futaba has a line about, like, I slept like a rock or whatever, and then they keep going.
But so anyway, he's very chill about everything, which he'll discuss later, but he found a key to the facility, and they're like, but we can't go in. You said it would be bad to. And he's like, no, it's prime investigation territory, baby. We found a body.
Yeah, although they do mention the thing about the calling card beforehand.
Oh,
too.
yes, thank you. Yeah, I for some reason wrote that down later, but yeah, you're correct. We talk about the fact that there wasn't a calling card that we needed to send, and yet we were able to do everything. And we kind of come to the idea that, well, it was kind of technically sent to the monarch previously because of the idea that he knew his desire was under threat by who was involved with all of it. So a calling card was sort of sent already.
Yeah.
Again, just bringing up a little bit of differences from the jails to the palaces here for sure as well. But he mentions, we can go investigate, but we're worried because apparently from locals, we heard that a ton of trucks had gone up to the lab and secured things from there mysteriously and then left. So we're not expecting much to be there.
And this was previously, right? Like
a while ago. He's saying that this had happened a while ago. Zenkichi, after everyone's like, okay, cool, let's go off, does question about the fact that he was so chill.
This is a really important moment for Zenkichi. I
felt like this was a big deal for them to highlight,
because so they find this body and they confirm that it's Ubukata, and they realize that it's probably a suicide, and like this is heavy stuff, and Zenkichi is just like handling it like a cop, just sort of talking about it as another part of the case, and Ryuji mentions like, whoa man, like you're being really chill about this stuff, right? Like this is wild. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just this is what I do, right? And then after everyone leaves, Zenkichi has this moment where he stops and he's like, I think the exact thing he says is, he's like, pretty chill, I wonder when that happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, it's very much him being sort of disappointed in himself, or sort of like realizing for the first time that like this very serious stuff about death and like someone dying, right, is just like water off his back, right? It doesn't faze him anymore. And that seems to make him uncomfortable in a way that I think is really important for his character to have that sort of introspective moment.
Yeah, to me it definitely read as like a self-realization moment of, oh boy, that's probably not great that I just don't care about all of these horrible things that I'm dealing with on such a nonchalant level.
And it leads into what they were talking about with Akane too, of like, you know, you got to stop working at some point. You have to have be with your family at some point too. It's like he seems to have lost himself in this job in a way that he did not realize until the Phantom Thieves came along.
Totally. So anyway, it cuts to us looking around. Nothing at all is kind of what happens to be found initially as we're searching inside the facility. Seems like it's all been cleaned out, and we're not really finding anything specifically about jails or anything that we're hoping to. But Futaba walks in and says she was able to find a USB drive in the director's office. It was actually thanks to Sophia's suggestion that she was able to find this. They kind of talk about like, isn't that the first place you would look for evidence? And they're like, well, I guess it was hidden very well and all that sort of thing. So she pulls out her laptop. We start digging into what's on the USB drive, and it seems to be a list of very famous and powerful people. Essentially a list of people that this mastermind we know is out there wanted their hearts to be changed. So we have this very important list in hand. It's something that obviously Zenkichi can work with. So he's going to go investigate the mastermind and kind of figure out something with this list of people and what it could mean. But then we kind of... Go ahead.
Well, I think the thing that really ties it together, right, is that they recognize a couple of the names on the list. Or like one of them is like the councilman in Sapporo, and there's another one that I can't remember exactly, but like there's a couple people that they know for sure had their hearts changed by monarchs.
Yes. That
are on this list, and then, you know, they piece it together that way.
Yeah, exactly. And so Zenkichi's going to go investigate this stuff. We're debating on where to go next. We could go back with him, but it's such a long boat ride. The group doesn't want to do that.
Right.
So they suggest a boat trip to Kyushu.
Yeah.
And give us our next destination. And so we know we're off to go there, but before we do, it's sort of like, do whatever you need to on the beach, get everything settled as much as you need to, and you can get, as we were saying earlier, a mission for Yusuke.
Right.
Where he wants to capture the beauty of the island before he leaves. You can suggest a few wrong things, but he wants to capture the Shisa. There we go. However, no mere statue is going to do it for him. Why don't we go kill many of them?
Yeah.
In the jail. And so then, yeah, you got to go back in, kill a bunch of them with him. Again, pretty simple, but it's a cute sort of more about Yusuke as you go through.
Well, I also like that this calls attention to the fact that this island has Shisa on it as statues, and then also has Shisa in it as shadows.
Yes.
Like, that's just a cute tie-in.
Yeah. It's a very cute moment, and again, just giving us a little bit more of the group. If you didn't, or if you happen to have a save ready, make sure you go talk to everyone, because I do think if you go talk to Futaba before you leave, she does give you a recipe.
Yeah, there's I think you get a recipe for talking to people before all of this too. There's
Yes.
there's a couple recipes you get from conversations, and there's also, you get these cute little, from the Yusuke mission, you get these cute little like Shisa toys that show up in your van.
Yeah, there's definitely a few ornaments you can miss out on, so don't do that if you still have a save you want to go back for. But yeah, we can finish our mission and then head off. I think that's all. I played a little bit ahead, and so I know there's a scene on a boat with Zenkichi, but we can save that for next week.
Sure, unless you want to touch it. I haven't gotten that far though.
Cool.
Yet.
Then let's save it for next week. I was like, if we both played, it's a good cliffhanger. If not, we'll just keep going.
Yeah. So next week is again, we're not entirely sure if we're going to go all the way through the jail. I think I'd like to if we can manage it, but it is a lot to talk about. So we'll see what we're going to do. And obviously just play along, and once we get to certain spots in the podcast, you can pause or whatever if you didn't get that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to go into this next phase. I'm glad we did this this jail, because it's like, it is so different. It's really interesting, right? It is such a break from the pace, both story-wise, thematically, mechanically. It is just this weird, cool, different sort of distraction of a thing, and I dig that a lot.
Yeah, I appreciated it in that sense, especially because I do think the, like, not monotony, but the repetition of that structure was getting a little bit to me, of just like, okay, I know we're going to get here, and then we're going to have to investigate this person, do XYZ, but and I expect we'll have to again, but I liked that in the midst of all that, I was just like, no, this is a very pressing jail we need to get through, and I think the way it sets up everyone chasing you in the real world, forcing you to kind of go through this jail, and this jail happens to be one that you can go through in that way, I think lined up really well.
There's also some cute teases in it too, with like when you're talking to people beforehand, there's a guy with a guitar, and if you ask him about the secret lab, he'll be like, I don't know, maybe that building up on the hill, I've only been here, I just moved here, right? And so like, the only person that will actually give you information that points you in the right direction is somebody that's brand new, so he hasn't been brainwashed yet. And it's like, there's a couple little cool things, right? And you're only on this island literally for 24 hours or whatever, and then you leave.
Yeah, it's
really quick.
It's short both in-game and the game itself, because it is a shorter jail section. But yeah, it's I really liked kind of where it nestles into this adventure so far, for sure.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up and move on to that next leg of our adventure, Tom, what's your pop quiz for this week?
Alrighty. Well, this jail was weird. The cage was open. There was no monarch. All crazy things, right? There was one other thing that's a little bit, well, yeah. Let's go with this. Sorry.
Questioning your own question.
I did. I do this a lot. I second-guess myself. Here's the question, though. The last few jails have had cages named after sins in the same way that palaces were named after sins in Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. What is the name of this jail's cage? Because it shakes things up in the same way that the jail itself does. That's your question. What's the name of the cage?
Oh.
Which literally only pops up when you click the button to enter the cage.
Well, hopefully one of you out there gets it right, because I surely won't, but I look forward to hearing your answers, which you can leave at youtube.com/Dornology. You can tweet at Tom and myself. I'm at JMDornbush. Tom is at Tom R. Marks, or you can write into dornology@gmail.com with answers or questions about the show in general, or about the game that we're playing in general. If you have anything you want to write in with, that's a little bit longer. Of course, you can leave YouTube comments as well. If you're enjoying the show on any audio platform or YouTube, please don't forget to rate it, subscribe, hit the smash the buttons that they always tell you to smash. We appreciate it and help it get out there to more Persona fans. But that is going to pretty much do it for us on this week's episode. Tom, thank you as always for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
It's been all right for me because Makoto broke up with me and I didn't know it. But other than that, I had a good time. And until next time, nice to steal ya. Makoto, come back to me.
It's because you didn't take her on the Ferris wheel.
It's true. I really messed up, man.